Good morning, everybody. This is COOLA from Raw Stocks. We have another edition of the pre-market prep going on here, and we are looking at data coming in just here a few moments ago. And let me flip it over here real quick. This is core PPI. It's our producer index here, and the producer pricing index. This is coming up actually lower than expected, but up in regards to the previous month. So, how do we look at that? To me, I think it falls in line with the expectations. I think last month being down 0.4 was a bit of an anomaly, and the real thing we're looking at right now is unemployment claims, which is virtually coming in at 248. You can see that it is on the uptick here. In regards to where we were, we're in a somewhat of an uptick and two high prints here. Okay, so these are new unemployment claims. So it's definitely something that people are looking at. This is a potential risk area, right? So that we see this is printing up in this range as we are climbing. Not the highest we've had in some time, but definitely something we need to be looking at as this is starting to hit some of the higher levels of our data in quite some time. You can see all the way back to 2022. Of course, this is COVID era. This is totally different, but you're just our normal time frame here in regards to 2023 to 2025. We're getting some of the highest reads we've seen in some time. So is this going to say like, hey, maybe we are entering into that recession era? Maybe Elon wasn't lying. We'll see. So let's talk about the data that we see. First and foremost, let's do a shout out to our sponsors. I want to do a shout out to Gamma Edge and Black Box Stocks. Without those guys, would not be able to produce what we do for you guys on the pre-market prep. It is very important to make sure that we show those guys love. Make sure you use the links in the bio, links in the video descriptions, and make sure we're just showing our support there. So Gamma Edge has a 14 day trial. Black Box Stocks has a 30% discount using the links that we have. So, okay. So what are we seeing right now? We're seeing virtually coming down and testing this, what I would consider clearly some type of key level right here, right? Now, right here near that 599, this is going to be equivalent to your SPX 6000, right in this range here. We've come in this range multiple times now. It's been a key area. I think at this point right here, you have to look at this and say, well, we'll see if we bounce, right? And if we bounce, then great. If not, we'll see if we want to come down and retest an area to the likes of 597 to right, probably the neckline here in that 595 area. So that's the idea. If we get a close under our daily 4, it does open us up for some type of potential pullback. But yesterday we pushed below it, got a nice close above it. But currently that is an ascending moving average here. This is a bullish move. This is distribution to the upside. But are we going to see a pullback or a consolidation? That is to be seen. Now, let's take a look at the data for us here. Pull this over. Let's load up SPY first. Okay, so we're still in a call-dominated gamma condition. The parameters have kind of changed, and you can kind of see that 585 is kind of grown, right? Not crazy, but it's a pretty significant pull. So is 590 here and 595. These are two decent sized areas here. Now here is what makes the hair rise on you, right? Is a big pull here at 595 today. A big pull here at 595. So this is large, and I think it's something that we need to take note on. We just talked about that neckline near 595. Well, it definitely has the largest draw of the day to it. Okay. So this is a little bit of a choppy kind of look here, as we do have some support in that 599, 598 area. And then we actually do have some shorts at the 600 and 601 area. So is this going to are we going to find ourselves chopping with this type of data? Potentially. I think if we slip and get below that 598 level that we were just talking about, getting below this pivot area here, 599, 598 area, I think it's pretty likely that we're going to find ourselves revisiting towards this neckline here at 595 based on the data that we're seeing here, right? The largest draw of the day. But when we have a really confused, really pivot area like we do here, unless we're really underneath it, it's hard to say. And this is where your risk versus reward sometimes isn't that clear. But under 598, you would use 598 as or excuse me, 597. You'd use that to short down towards 595, and you just don't want to see it to go over that. So let's pull this up. Let's go to our daily. Let's go to our daily range here. Yesterday we had a range between 609 and 599. Yes, larger range. We saw the push up towards 605, and then we saw it visit down towards our levels at 6,000, which was about a 599 equivalent. And you can see that we were showing multiple levels of support here. Now we're gapping down from our close near that 599 level again. But this data is no longer accurate. Okay. It was great containment for our range yesterday. Let's just put it that way. It held in this range, but now the floor has dropped. The floor has dropped down towards that 595 range. Let me get this a little bit more accurate. Got down to that 595 range, and then our ceiling has changed towards 605 instead of 609. So virtually yesterday's high all the way down to 595. We're opening up right near the middle of that range. And again, just to be clear, this is virtually a pivot down here. All right. I don't love this setup, right? Do not love this setup because this is where we fired out. It's a pretty obvious key level here. You could see multiple times right here, right? Multiple times. So I think if we get below this 597.5 area, we talked about the 598, 597 area. If you get below this level here, I think it's a decent short to try to tag up our 595 range and potentially get the gap close. We slip our range, have a large quick sell off, maybe close this gap, or even run for 591. If it starts getting a little out of hand, maybe some bad news hits, that's a possibility. But as of right now, we sit right smack in the middle of the range. Pivot is down at 597. And I want to note that we're in a put dominated gamma condition for the day. Okay. So this virtually means that more bias towards leaning down. We talked about that with the 595 being lowest. Now, here's what we need to look at. Let's look at confluence with SPX here. Full complex here, going to be call dominated again, but you can see the NetGex is definitely shrank as far as that goes. So, and if you look at right here, our gamma conditions are now put dominated, but predominantly down to 6,000. 6,000 is our floor. So this gives us the understanding that yesterday's low, right, should be bought up. This is going to remain the floor here, which is virtually where we're about to open. Will we slip this and create chaos down here and drive us down? Or will this just be a chop fest down here, fake breakouts, fake breakdowns, and just kind of give us a chop? And maybe we see it rebound with maybe some type of rubber band effect. This is a day that if I was going to tell you, you're like, man, I really got to do some work today, or hey, there's this project I've been wanting to work on. This is that day. Okay. This is that day because it's not super clear. It's clear enough to know that we're put dominated, but it's also not super clear on if we're going to use this level as support or if we're going to slip it and try to push down towards that 595 level, which is approximately right in this 596 area, right? 5960 area here. Okay. I suppose if you want to be short under 6,000, that's probably fine, but there's a lot of little levels under there and a lot of uncertainty in the data today that really just kind of give you pause. Now, when you start looking at shorter time frames here, let's say the next 9 days worth of data here, you have a huge draw up towards that 6100 level. That still remains the same. There's not a huge draw to the downside. This may be potentially a singular little pullback before we make a move up. I talked about this yesterday on X, where that we had the potential to run up to 6100. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them run us down to 6,000 before they try to run us up there. Just kind of shake the tree loose, right? In a couple bullish positions right now. We had a lot of gains over the week, but stuck in an NVIDIA call, and I'm stuck in a where I would consider not a great area for our SPX calls. So we did look to go long right here at this 60-10 area, right? 60-10 area yesterday. And then this thing did kind of make a move off of this to push up. But now we're right back in this range, and we're going to see what happens with 6,000. When you have swings like this, you can look to hedge with like a 0 day and look to shift your delta, right? If you need to understand that, look up delta hedging, and you can utilize delta hedging with short-term time frames and kind of match that up. Got to do the math. You got to do the calculations, but it's something where you definitely need to potentially look in if we break below 6,000. All right, so we've got our ranges for SPX. We've got a lot of coverage on that. Let's move on to Tesla. Yesterday we showed 525, the previous day's high, which was 527 and 525 would have been support. We saw that multiple times throughout the day on Tesla. It tried to show that support, even got the decent close on it. But right now we're slipping that support. It still remains bullish down towards, well, yesterday's data down towards that 312.50 look, right? 312.50, 310 area. That's kind of where it turned into a pivot where you could say, oh, we could slip to 300. But let's take a look at the data and see where we're at. Call dominated, shrank up a little bit, but not crazy, right? And 613 expiration here, we can see still call dominated conditions, no super big draw to the downside, but you can see that our net gex flipped here at 312.5, 310. So that remains the same thought in my brain, that this has that ability, but this could definitely shrink. The dynamics could definitely shrink here. You could see that 350 shrink a ton yesterday, and so they've shaken people out of that position. And it remains between 325 and say 300 right here. You can see our supply and demand kind of highlighted here. So a decent amount of shorts going in here, but we have a ton of support down here. So we're going to see kind of where that lines up today. New range 300 to 325. We need to adjust for this. 325 here. We're going to remove the support now, as it's going to act as resistance at 325. It still would be considered a pivot, but I'm going to chalk this up as resistance here now. This is going to act as resistance, and we're going to be looking at that 312 to 310 and a half. Switch this 312 and a half to 310 as your pivot slash support range. Okay, I'm going to leave it as a pivot so you know that it um, is technically a support, but it's a pivot here. And if the pivot fails, then we could see this slide down towards 300. Okay. I want to take a look at this real quick on the daily here. Yesterday, it made its move, opened, and went and tested towards that daily 20. We talked about that yesterday, where that 336 mark could be the upside target, with potentially seeing it surpass that and getting up towards that 350 range. But right now, we saw it close below, well, virtually at the previous day's close, and now we're seeing it kind of shrink. Daily forwards is climbing, but as you can see, all the way down to 313, kind of matches and gives us confluence in that 312 and a half to 310 range. So will you buy up there? Yeah, I mean, you could look at this as a potential buying area. 325 being the highest side here. If you start looking at this is going to be huge on this scale, but you start looking at this as a potential using the 320, or excuse me, the 200 in the daily 4 up towards 325. Is it becoming worth it? I'm not so sure that's going to be the case. You could tighten this up near that 310, 312 look, and you could start to get a decent risk versus reward here. But it is definitely something where it's not the greatest of ranges here, right? Our range slips all the way down to 300. I'm not a huge fan of buying in the middle of the range. Let's just put it that way. You guys know that about me. We'll short in the top, we go long in the bottom. There's no bias, there's no nothing. That's what we do. That's what we wait for. And there's occasionally, sometimes we may do like a little lotto entry, but that's predominantly what we wait for. So if you're in Tesla positions today, especially long positions, you really need this thing over 325. Okay, because otherwise you're going to get chopped up here at 325, or you're going to see this thing potentially press all the way back down towards that 312, 310 area. But this is going to open as resistance. And so watch a potential test at 325 and then see this thing kind of sell down. Doesn't surprise me to see some type of move like this, and then a recovery back up to 325. A lot of times we will see this type of consolidation bull flag, and you really see those long sell-offs, and then they turn into something like that, right? So that doesn't surprise me. This doesn't surprise me at all. But you need to be cautious here if you're long here, especially in any type of huge position. You need this over 325 quick and in a hurry. Otherwise, you're going to get burned for the week as 325 acts as resistance, and then we could potentially see this thing even move further down. Okay, Nvidia, a little bit of pain in the ass here. 142 has been gamma support here. It's been clear as day that 142 has been support. Look at all the test into this area. We've been long in this, waiting for it to get a bit of a squeeze over 145. The moment this would have got over 145, our call positions in Nvidia would have, IV would have spiked on those, and we would have been looking super pretty for a potential move up towards that 150. But as of right now, we're opening slightly under that. It's going to be interesting to see what data shows us here. So, Nvidia still remains call dominated. Very large net gex here for a 150 draw on the full complex. But if we dial it in short term, you can see that 137 has really grown. So in regards to, let's say you're a seller, say you're looking to do some type of position between 145 and 137, looks like an IC at this point, right? A condor is going on here where they looked at 145 and 137. This would be a good play for you to see that we maintain between 145 and 137 for the week. If we crack below this, that would really be interesting. See some type of draw to the downside, but I really think we're going to containment range here between 145 and 137 for the remaining of the week. I think at this point, we need to look and see if we're going to slip this 142 area. And if we do, we potentially need to look to close out our NVIDIA position for a loss here because of the expiration date. We're looking for that weekly squeeze through here. Even if we would have got an open over the top of this, we would have looked to close for a retest back towards this. But we just didn't get it. So sometimes that's the way it works, guys. That's it. But we knew this was resistance. We were looking to crack it. It was a lotto entry for a potential squeeze to the upside. This is the way it goes. Right now we're sitting on a pivot. We're seeing that a potential 137 visit to the downside is the most likely under 142. So let's switch up our range here. Is this locked? Yeah. 145 has now become the hard ceiling again. For the weekly expansion, definitely over 145 to 150, but right now kind of just looks like we're stuck in this range here. So going to be looking for a potential vacate, and we'll see kind of how that happens. This is a smaller position, but we'll see. Transitional area, like I said, here between 142 and 141, and that's kind of where we're looking right now, that this is a transitional area. Over 142 remains bullish towards 145. And then if we drop below 141, watch for the target, the real draw at that 137. Looking at it on the daily time frame, how does that match up to what we're seeing? Virtually, we've seen the distribution to the upside here. We had 1 day slip here on a big sell down, but ultimately right after that we got the move over the top of the daily 4 here, and it's been nothing but upside to that. And yesterday we closed on the daily 4 after just seeing a lot of consolidation here. This showing a bit of a weakness, but to be curious and see how we respond at open at that 142 range. If we lose it again, 137, the daily 20 visit is probably going to happen. Okay. So that gives us the gap close. That gives us our daily 20 visit. Those are an area where you need to look at and say, hey, this has potential. Would I open it for this week? I'm not so sure. We talked about as regards to confluence here, under 6,000 for us on SPX drives us down the market. And I will always tell you the S&P 500 is the win to the market. Okay, so if the S&P is trending down and you're at a pivot point on a ticker, then you need to be careful that or just understand that most of the time we see it move together, right? So it's the win to the market. So careful on that. Again, this could be a potential chop day. If you don't have an active position, it might be the day where you just say, hey, I'm going to go do something else today. Okay. But you could set an alert and say, hey, if it breaks below here, I'll try a short and see how that works. But as of right now, it could be a right off the rip bounce or a chop. Okay. So, but if it breaks below it, then that's fine. But we're either looking at support or a chop. The most likely, if we break below those key levels, then it'll probably be a short day. But as of right now, the data we see is a bounce out of those areas or a chop here. That's what we're seeing. It's not clear for us on where we want to be and what we want to play. So under 142, look for the short for potentially all the way down to 137. You got to know that, gap closes always predominantly bring some type of level of bounce. So we might see if we slip 142 at the open, we might see this come test this, retest this, and then maybe see a move down here. I think that's probably more than likely than just seeing a slip out of this range down here before seeing that bounce. I think that's more unlikely. I think we'll see the actual gap bounce here. But if not, we see this thing drive right, sneak a liquidity swipe, and get back over 142. I really like a retest of that potential 145 back here. But you have to see it swipe here and see it get back over 142, maybe even a retest before your entry. And so we'd swipe, get back over 142, close the gap, retest 142, and then see that thing try to drive up towards that level. I really like this potential play here and looking to go long here with a nice tight little range here, looking for that retest here. But again, be careful. These are the two different plays that I see us potentially happening here on NVIDIA. I'm hoping that we get the move over 142, retest 145, and at that point, we're going to see the speed and the strength. If it gets right up to that, maybe we start seeing a poke out above this. And we might stick into it, but I really think that we'll be looking to close for a loss on the 145 visit if we do get it today, because based on what we've seen, the IC here is a containment level. I think that we're going to be held up for the 150 push that we're looking for. I think we're going to get held up on that. So, okay. Covered NVIDIA, covered Tesla, covered SPY. I'm going to give the chat an opportunity to throw in a ticker. It's got to be a high volume ticker. I don't want to do something very, very small. So if you'd like, throw something in the chat. I will do coverage on that. Meta, sure, absolutely. Let's take a look at Meta real quick. Let's look at the daily. Okay, so yesterday was the first time in some time that we've seen a daily 4 below the daily 4 close. All right, so obviously we're seeing a short-term change in what we've been doing in regards to a distribution to the upside here. Okay, we always use the daily 4 for distribution guidance and showing that this, and I use the daily volume weighted moving average. You always see this as a indication for distribution. We saw the first sign of weakness yesterday. Now let's take a look at what the data is showing us. So full complex here, very, very call dominated. You can see that 700 is a huge draw here. Huge draw. And it's actually negative net delta here. So we might be seeing a potential move down towards that 690 area, which we're kind of at. But 710 to 690 is kind of where we're at. So we're going to see if this 690 to 687 area is going to act as a support area for a potential move up towards 7,000. Let's shape this up real quick. 710, virtually new high, to 690. So we said 690, right? So range is here. You can see it kind of coincides with what we've seen trading here, right? We're at the low side of it. Again, watch for a potential slip towards the gap close here, right? True gap closes here at 686. So, but what we're seeing on the data is support realistically here. So watch a potential little peekaboo slip outside our range here, show support here, and see the recovery over the top of it. And at that point, we could see a retest at 7,000 here. This is a pivot point for us and also a target to the upside here. But this will act as resistance here. So watch for a potential, like I said, little peekaboo, little run here. Maybe get back over the top of 690 and we could see a retest of 700 before either making a decision here as a pivot point. If we break below 690 and we see some type of larger sell, wouldn't be surprised to see this thing go and chase liquidity towards the 682 and 680 area, but the data doesn't really show that. What we need to do is go off the plan. So watch a little flick outside our range here. Watch for a recovery. Yeah, no, it's a quick movement and cheap cons. I totally agree. So watch a little flick out of here, but anything outside of our range, y'all, is volatility. So you start seeing it above it, there's volatility in it. You start seeing volatility climb, and then you also can see price move very quickly at that point. All right, so watch for a move that goes under 690, but you want to see it recover quickly and stay within our range here. So like I said, wouldn't be surprised. This is another area where you could see it just kind of sitting here at 690, and then maybe we see that move later. Just keep in mind that today's not the greatest of days, but we're either going to come right out of the hole and see us start to move up, or we're likely going to chop, even maybe see some fake breakdowns. But ultimately, I think this is going to hold. We'll see what happens. So, all right. Hopefully that is helpful for you guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. The recording will go out to our premium lounge, and this is one of the longest ones we've done, but I thought it would be insightful for everybody and really a key area in the market and a pivot area in the market. So make sure you guys, if you guys are not part of our trading community, there are a ton of traders in here that are active, tons of ideas. Come join it. You get access to this pre-market prep prior to the open of the market. And then also, if you are looking for our premium side, you get access to our trades, our plans, and much, much more. So visit us at rawstocksllc.com. That is rawstocksllc.com, or go visit the links in our bio. So thanks, guys. Until next time.